is here with us today. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Amani?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Kira Carr, Director of Mission Advancement at Amani Family Services. We've been in our community for over 18 years now, and our mission is to partner with immigrants, refugees, and the community to promote safety, encourage personal growth, and of course foster a spirit of belonging here in Allen County.
So initially, what were your reactions to the films based on the work that you do in the community?
It's such a great illustration of the many pathways that you see immigration take form in our community. There is no one true story, no one true journey, and some are journeys of aspiration and hope for a better life, but some are full of pain and trauma, and it's not as easy as one may think it is to just leave what you thought of as home. And so I really loved how the variety of those films told so many dynamics of that story.
Do we have any questions from anyone in the audience for either myself or Kiara? Yes, Stephanie, hello.
What do you think are some of the largest challenges, especially for immigrant populations here in Fort Wayne?
That's a great question. So we have more than 25,000 immigrants and refugees living in our community. About 30% of that population struggle with limited English proficiency. So language access is a huge need in our community. And a lot of that just kind of circles around our intention as organizations here in our community. So how do we utilize phone interpretation? How do we utilize translating our materials into languages that are going to be accessible to the people that need them? How do we get away from using children as interpreters? We have seen that that causes a lot of trauma and puts a lot of burden on young people. And I think you can see that in the films here today with Gabriella, of feeling like you are this sort of medium between two areas in life. So imagine also having to take care of your parents' bills and be responsible before you are ready for that kind of responsibility. So that's one. And of course, legal services as well is very limited here in Allen County, the access to it, but also just the availability of it. We have a long wait list here in Allen County, and that puts a hindrance on work authorizations and certifications that can actually really help our economy as a whole to have this talent be actually tapped into, which we often can see take a long time to get done. So those are some of the obstacles for sure.
Anyone else have anything? So can you tell me a little bit more about how your work really impacts on an individual family level? Mm-hmm. What are some things or just things that you've seen within the films that you're like, yes, I can relate to that based on the work that we do? And what are some of the types of communities that you serve with Amani in Fort Wayne?
Yeah, great question. So we serve predominantly our Burmese community, as also just the many sort of Spanish-speaking countries that also reside here in Fort Wayne. I can tell you from what I saw in the films, I see and I hear a lot of these different stories every single day. So Amani serves primarily through mental health care services. So we have staff therapists on our staff. We have support groups. We have substance abuse prevention classes that we have in office. And so through those many sort of journeys, you hear about a vast variety of these stories and the obstacles and opportunities for each of these families. You also hear a lot about just not feeling like you belong here and that feeling of exclusion or not being considered, which is why Amani really took on the role of advocacy. And we do that through our Welcoming Fort Wayne initiative, in which we're really trying to gather community leaders from all different sectors, from education, from economy, from our social services that we have here, and from our government, and asking, what can we do more intentionally to be more welcoming and be more inclusive? And what are those barriers that we don't even think of as barriers that we're setting up that is forcing people not to be as successful or to thrive here in our community? And so in films like with Gabriella, where she is excluded from the pool because of a membership cost, that is something that we think, oh, well, if you have it and you have access to it, then, it's for you. But for someone like her who can't have that, how does that block her from her dreams? Or even with Evie in Go in Peace, you see how bureaucracy can really slow you down and lead to a lot of frustration for a lot of people. And so those things of what can we do to tweak and to change that can maybe cause more people to thrive, I think is really where Welcoming Fort Wayne sort of stands in that place here in Amani.
So how are ways that people in Fort Wayne can support what Amani is doing?
Yeah, I would welcome everyone to look at our website, AmaniFamilyServices.org. We have a Welcoming Fort Wayne tab on that website that talks about our Welcoming Fort Wayne plan, in which we've worked with community leaders across many sectors to come up with recommendations and strategies on how we think we can be more inclusive and more welcoming. It's a 3 to 5 year project, so it's not going to happen overnight. We fully anticipate that it'll take many, many people and many hands to make it happen. So please read through that plan and see where you can contribute, but also learn more about the opportunities and obstacles that are facing the immigrant population here. I would say that we have incredible community who are entrepreneurial and who are contributing to our economy every single year. And they take care of each other so well. And I would love to see how Fort Wayne can also be more compassionate and take care of that group as a whole, and just be more interactive and more engaging in that way. Of course.
Does anyone else in the audience have any questions for Kiara or myself? Yes.
Could you give an example of a barrier or an obstacle that we might not normally think of that people have faced?
One that we've heard of recently, and this kind of goes back to language access, but let's say that you are a family you're trying to access shelter, or you're trying to access a furniture bank of some sort, and you go by yourself. If you are not fluent in English, sometimes that can cause a barrier to your services to get the resources that you need. And so you have to then find an interpreter or find someone like Amani to help support you. Amani is a 20-person organization, so we're really small. And we don't always have all the languages in stock. We use foreign interpretation for some of our clients too. And so it takes the work of many people to serve one person if we're not being intentional about just having language access in our organization. So Amani has to find that language service to serve that client and then serve you as the furniture bank or the shelter or wherever the organization may be that might not have that language service in stock or at your office. So that's just one thing that I don't know if we ever think about it that deeply, until someone shows up at your door needing those services. So being more intentional and thinking more instinctively about what can we do to be more inclusive before someone shows up at the door needing those services.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Kiara, do you have anything else that you would like to add?
Thank you for allowing Amani to be a part of this. The films that you picked were so wonderful. Thank you for showing inclusion and showing immigrant journeys. I think that's really important as an art form to display and present, so thank you for that. And also, like I said, please learn more about our community through AmaniFamilyServices.org.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I know that we have collaborated quite a bit with Cinema Center and Amani, and it is one of my favorite partnerships because I really value, and I think the entire community values, the work that you and Amani are doing.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for being here.
Of course, thank you.